just remember that quote around First Strike where Heretics won it in Europe, and you have Hika kind of going, "I don't get it. I don't get the Sage pick. It just Europe doesn't make any sense." Like, I don't think there needs to like that age like.
He said that they were behind.
Yeah, and I think it's just that. That's what it kind of feels from. Like, I don't want to. I really like 100 Thieves, and I like all of the players, but you need to have an innovator in that lineup.
Let's go back over NA here and talk about how they're shaping up. Before we do that,
I got some breaking news I've just seen.
Yep.
Taylor's been dropped
Taylor
from
news,
TSM.
right?
Yeah.
Yep. Let's bring that up here because I queued this well in advance.
Shit.
Beat you to it. We just saw that Taylor was just released here for TSM. This is a bold move, and it definitely indicates that TSM are moving in a very different direction. Taylor has featured on a couple of podcasts, and I've had a chance to hear him speak to the game, and definitely seem to have a pretty good understanding here. But they're going away from him here. I wonder who they've replaced him with. Hopefully not another sports psychologist, but who knows?
Another AI. They've duplicated him. Just copy and pasted.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Making moves. I like it.
I was just going to say, Josh RT did a signed emoji tweet. There's a lot of rumors that he's going to NRG, which is probably likely, but there's a cheeky bet that he's made his way into TSM, and he's been very good at being able to build squad out of not really nothing, but I think he gets the most out of players that he picks up and puts these like mixed rosters together. So maybe there's potential there to be a bit more of a man manager and get the most out of TSM, because individually they're a great squad, but it's about putting them together and actually meshing them as a team, which has never really been a thing.
They're when we talk about Sentinels lineup, like TSM, they fall in that same category. They just don't win.
Who was Josh Hartley coaching? It wasn't the Renegades, was it?
He was a player mostly, wasn't he? He played on like he played on a team that beat T1 quite a while ago. Let me see what they were called. But I remember there was it was a team that had like a lot of individual players that were just showing up. I don't think it was race. It wasn't. I think it was headshot percentage. No. Yeah, it was headshot percentage because he had players like Exalt on it who went plus 24 against him. So yeah, he was more like putting teams together with like Miniature, Nosy, those kind of people, and being a part of the team and not being a coach specifically.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I see the tweet now. He was playing with them. Okay, interesting. Yeah, let's see what he can do, of course. Obviously, yeah, there's conversation now. Obviously, you remove Cutler, you remove Tailored. So I think a lot of the governance of your team is going to change in game, I think, when it comes to like philosophy of coaching and calling style. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. I'm also interested to see who they go for. Obviously, we just saw that Jonta is no longer with FPX and it's Doom Bros now, who's obviously regular here on the stream and hangs out in chat. So congrats to him. And yeah, so I mean, Johnson's been around since the Counter-Strike days. He was with Flipside coaching that team. So we'll see where he lands. But yeah, that's just a little bit of a side note. Let's talk a little bit about the North American qualifiers heading into Reykjavik here, because we all made our predictions, and it was actually Sentinels and Version 1 that end up making it through. Valley, I mean, we got to see really a coming of age or a coming alive of a few of our North American teams like Cloud9 Blue, who I know you'll speak to a little bit later. But let's talk about Sentinels here. They obviously qualify by beating Cloud9 Blue, right? That's how they get there. In fact, both teams have to beat C9 Blue to qualify. But Sentinels, I mean, despite their sort of ups and downs, I guess, mostly ups recently, they still look pretty good.
Well, the Sentinels have always been, and no one ever wants to talk about this, but like I even went out and said it, like Sentinels, despite what we saw in Masters when Tens got on the team, they had their really big inconsistent moments where I even questioned them here on this show, and I was saying, Sentinels is scaring me now. So we saw a bracket where Sentinels were winning not 2-0, 2-0, 2-0 in dominant fashion, but it's 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, but it still looks like it's in dominant fashion. I'm not worried about this team, but the game is changing, and we can't expect a team like Vision Strikers to win every game is, just untouchable. It's fucking the greatest, right? Sentinels, they don't scare me. By far, I think they are just I don't know, man. Like every time we talk about second tens, it's like they're battling on who's gonna be better with each other. The way that Shazam is able to play, Shazam has stepped his shit up even more. I thought Shazam was good. I never followed CS. Shazam is even better than I thought he was from when I first covered First Strike and all that. So I love the progression I see from this team as well. Um, Version 1 on the other end, Uber, I'm not gonna front, dog. That shit was crazy. When we saw Version 1 in the past, I think one of their first games that we saw, it was against the Sonics, and it was a big deal. And like, maybe not the Sonics, but I remember it was a big comeback win in order to like come back and make the series respectable. They overall lost, right? But they showed that throughout the playoffs as well. Version 1 doesn't give up. They're all in your face. And it's funny when you look at the play styles as well, because Version 1 isn't a team like Cloud9 Blue where they stretch out the map, fill you out, and try to counter strat you. Take a look at the red bodies on your screen. They know what they want to do. They make up their mind, and once they feel like the time is right, they run in and they make plays happen. It might not happen this round, so I might, be looking stupid. But still though, Version 1 has showed us that they are a scrappy team that wins by any means necessary. Am I worried about their gameplay and their style in international play? Fuck yes. I'm very worried about it because I think that they're way too vulnerable. They give up way too much of they have no map control, is what I'm trying to say. But still, the level of play that we get from Vanity, especially fucking Zelsis and Penny having his moments, is incredible. I'm happy to see them go all the way like this during the playoffs, but international play, I want them to shock the road again, man.
I think it's really interesting that you say that V1 don't have any map control, because I think on this map especially, Haven, Whippy is extremely annoying on the A side. So we actually see V1 push up on the extremities on A long and take control of that like FaZe did when they were getting a lot of success on this map as well. The Viper walls that Whippy was using, he was either using a wall to A long, so you couldn't really push A lobby at all. You would just die straight away. Or he'd go deep and send this Viper wall that covered the entrance into A lobby. It covered the window looking out into mid, and it also like it goes all the way across. So the Viper walls was so oppressive, I think, and combine this, of course, with the fact that you're still seeing V1 play double duelers with this setup, right? That I think there was a Rainer on that particular map there. But Whippy is really, really hard for C9 to deal with in that first map, and there are so many times where they just don't bother going A. A is just freeload. There's no chance for C9 to push that there. I think their attack on A was really pretty. I mean, they got 4 rounds on attack. Like they got effed on with V1's defense. So yeah, I mean, Ascent was a little bit of a different story.
Ascent is exactly like directed. Like Ascent was purely like, okay, now we see what Version 1 does compared to what Cloud9 Blue. And the reason why I say map control, I'm sorry to cut you off, dude. The reason why I say map control, look at that series right there. Look at the way that Cloud9 plays versus Version 1. When Cloud9 plays Ascent, let's take a look at the default. They stretch everybody out everywhere. Every lane is covered. They're baiting utility and they're seeing what's there. Version 1, we're all gonna go here or we're all gonna go there. That is the definition of map control to me, and what you do with it after that. The thing is, they don't take that one side or one lane of the map just to control it. They wait there to just push in the sight. They could flanks were coming from Cloud9 Blue, and Cloud9 Blue, their methodical play definitely was an advantage there, but Version 1 at the end of the day was just better in general. But I still feel like, yeah. I mean, Haven could have been a different story, but the map presence, the real estate that they owned wasn't a lot because of just their style of play. I mean, factually, they go four or five people to that site, that lane for that execute, which is what we saw earlier in Valorant in NA. It is heavily an NA thing.
There was one cool thing that I just wanted to quickly touch on, if I may. I was just going to say, like, with Version 1, they had that game against Envy, and then they had to immediately play Cloud9 to qualify. They played Haven in both the best of 3 series. First time, it was like a standard composition with like Killjoy or whatever. The second time, they played that Viper, and they were taking some of the stuff that Liquid were doing with Viper on Haven overall. And it's just, I've never seen a team do that before, where they play the same map twice in a day, and they change up the composition. The fact that they had the goal to do that, to go, we're going to spice this up. We've seen what these guys have done 2 days ago, and we're just going to cherry pick it. I think that's what I like about this Version 1 team. Like, they had a finger on the pulse of the Astra stuff, the Viper areas. Clearly, some other teams didn't, and I think that's why they underperformed. And so I do feel that Version 1 is kind of like, they're quite modest in that approach, kind of going that, like, we're just going to look around and take the best things that we see and just accept that we might not necessarily stand up against Sentinels, but we could take some of the other comps and ideas around the scene overall and just be the fastest to adapt. And I think that's one of the reasons why they qualified.
They have their own style too that looks really good. I like it. You never know what to expect from them, dude.
Yeah, I think that like, you know, once they, like I said this earlier in the show, right? Once they caught off with the rest of the teams in NA, I think they actually adopted the strong
right.
metas really well. And I think they're getting a ton of value out of using the Viper right now, especially. They're still dabbling with Reyna. They're definitely playing a style that works for them. I think that Zels has played like 3 different duelists over the course of that series.
Zels
Both
is
he and Penny.
God.
Also, Penny can flex to the raise as well on maps where it just doesn't make a ton of sense to use the jet, which is great. So they're looking really good. I'd be interested to see now, because the meta is not going to change appreciably between these matches and Iceland, right? Version 1 looked very good when they had to, people were scrabbling to try and adapt and make use of the Viper Astra comps as early as possible. Now there'll be a lot more time in between that. And I think that's actually where we saw teams like Immortals and Luminosity look a little weaker when people were able to adapt. Like I remember Shazam saying they had like no time to, you know, adapt to that meta when they lost to him in the challenges a way back. So we'll see how they sort of pan out here.
That's
Let's
a good
hear though.
point.
Let's hear some of the final moments here from V1, because you can tell these guys are pretty excited to go to Iceland.
Filter, I think. We don't need to win this. Heaven dead.
Oh my god,
Heaven and right side pillar. Nice try. Enemies. Killjoy shit.
close left.
Wait, nothing here.
Back right, back right.
Backside!
I'm ulting.
Planning for heaven, planning for heaven.
Hold on, he might be on spawn.
Running back out, trying to flank.
Maybe run out spawn.
Yeah, trying to come out.
I'm going to lay heaven.
CT. Jets has a rifle on sight. Jet's here. Missing Astra. Astra dead. Jet here.
I'm playing heaven.
It's okay. I'm hiding on default.
Drilling
He's
your
backside.
flank, Anthony. I got your front.
Okay, one more rock.
Bro, Leaf just got 180'd. You guys should all go for it. Go for it.
I'll pop my wall.
Close.
Go.
Kill.
Just come in.
Reach his spot.
Heaven.
He sucked.
Going ramp. Retaking ramp.
Yeah.
My guy's spawn. I'll put this up. I'm
We're both stuck.
Above. Weird spot. He has knife.
Floating. He's above this.
One enemy remaining.
Nice! Let's fucking go!
You guys are fucking animals!
God, I love you guys. Good shit,
He
man.
made it. Yeah, it does.
God, I'm sweating, I'm shaking.
Shut up,
I need to throw up.
Shut up. Do I type we qualified to Iceland or for Iceland?
I'm not tweeting our reaction. I'm only tweeting that.
So much about that is American. It is like from having only one way to express excitement in Let's Fucking Go to not knowing how to construct a sentence. Everything about that screams United States of America.
Yeah.
My God. Incredible stuff.
I'm not disagreeing.
I mean, good on him. Yeah, obviously, you know, hearing their sucked over and over again in comms is always a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, Vanity looks incredibly good. He's obviously on the Astra. Normally, we saw him on the Omen. That team looks awesome. Talk about teams that didn't make it though. We got a very succinct packaging up of why 100 Thieves didn't make it. So we'll bless your ears with this one here as we keep moving.
Why do you look sad? We just lost a big tournament this weekend and not going to the first LAN, and we're sad, and we were the first seed going into it, and we lost 3 maps, 13-11. We lost half of our maps we actually played. We played 6 maps, 3 of them were 13-11. We're not going to the Iceland, and that's just the way it goes. Unlucky. Can I meet?
I mean, credit to that guy, because he gets back on his streams pretty soon after losing, and it's pretty devastating way to sort of fall out of the bracket here. I mean, the guy, I see the 5,000 plus subs is probably softening the blow a little bit there, but
yeah, it's literally the crying with money thing, isn't it? From the $1 million compound, yeah.
Right. I mean, he's not wrong though. I mean, I can say full-heartedly, like, if I have opinions about Envy and the reason why they lost. I have opinions for other teams and why they lost. When I look at 100 Thieves and the way they lose, it's so fucking weird. And Ryan, I want to hear this from an EU perspective as well. I don't feel like the players are bad. The players aren't lacking. Actually, I think the players are on an elite level individually too. From your eyes, as a European that watches this, what are your thoughts about 100 Thieves? Because I'm gonna be honest, when they lost, it wasn't like, oh, they suck, they need to change. It's like, damn, next time. It just wasn't their day. I don't have any terrible takeaways from them, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a slow adaptation to the meta, which, you know, people have literally written trilogies of books about on Reddit, and Steele's kind of dismissed them as just being, you know, fantasy. But I think the thing that kind of annoys me most out of like this 100 Thieves approach is it all feels a bit, oh, we got unlucky. And like that's not like a pros mentality, surely. Like I know you guys want to win.
He's not
and
telling the
that's kind of
truth.
no, I know. It's just one of those things where I feel like a lot of it, like coming down to 13, 11 rounds is like fair enough and stuff. But overall, I don't know. I've never seen a team kind of try and work around the issue almost and having that big discussion with Steel on stream, kind of saying like it's not that easy to just adapt to a meta and play that way. But I feel like it's your job to find a way. Like every other team has the same issues that you do when it comes to there's this new agent that's coming incredibly powerful. Viper's been buffed to a considerable amount. And I think you've had teams in Europe that were toying with Viper for the longest time. So that transition to pick her into other maps that they don't usually, to play her on bind and stuff, that seemed a bit more seamless. Whereas I feel like, yeah, you might have been really good for like First Strike and maybe even Masters 1. But if you're not sort of expecting a period where Viper can just come out of nowhere and you're not really prepared on how to deal with those compositions and what to do, and you have to cram 3 days of scrims to work out how to go about playing it, I kind of feel like that's just like a fundamental error with how you're approaching Valorant. This isn't Counter-Strike. Shit is going to change constantly. So if you run into this and kind of go, well, there's only so much we can do. What's going to happen when we get the next agent that might come in and be super strong? What happens if Yoru gets buffed to a point where you need to play him all the time? You need to be prepared for that shit. And if you're not going to be the best team in North America. It's not about how good you are aiming or how good your Counter-Strike fundamentals is. You have to stay ahead of the curve because Riot is going to sling some shit at you and you need to deal with it.
Right. And the reason why I asked you that specific question, because I talk a lot about comps with Stokes and Blue, right? And that is literally my only concern with 100 Thieves. I'm wondering, and I was actually looking up, are they the only team that didn't use Astra during that time frame? Like being able to adapt to be able to use those, it doesn't make sense. And then take a look at Bind also for the 13 and the mindset of just, the Omen flash and you don't really have smokes or anything. It's kind of like, if you kill Omen, there goes your flashes and your smokes. There's no utility stacking with this comp lineup. What is next for your plays? Because we know these strategies are well thought out. We know the intention behind them, but just the tools that you have in these lineups just aren't exactly what you need to pull off your thoughts. And that's really how I feel. Other than that, I feel like the moment they get over that hump and stop trying to force their play style in the game and just learn, like you said, 100 Thieves should be top 2 in NA.
It's like a really good casting analogy that I have because like I've spoken about this a lot when it comes to like being adaptable and changing. Like I know that you've spoken about that with Overwatch and Counter-Strike and Valorant and all that stuff recently, where I've spoken to casters about stuff that they do and I'm kind of like, I've heard stories of people saying you shouldn't do that because it's unprofessional, it's not, and they kind of go, well, that's just how I approach casting, that's how I approach doing this thing, basically kind of like, shoving away the advice that you're getting. And I feel that's kind of like 100 Thieves, right, where it's like, maybe you should like consider this, and they're like, oh, we tried for 3 days and then we gave up. Like it doesn't really fulfill you with that much confidence when you look at like Xset, you look at a place like we did, who was playing Viper ages ago, Poach for and Box, and now Built by Gamers. We don't have a player like that in 100 Thieves that's kind of going to go, well, I've been practicing Euro for weeks and I'm going to bring this out and we're going to experiment and change. It just feels like they're kind of, we like the game as it was for First Strike and we want to play that way for as long as we can until we're literally forced. And this was them being literally forced to change and they couldn't handle it.
Why do you think that they're so resistant then to this adaptation? Like, what is it about 100 Thieves that makes them more interested in trying to fit their style over the template of Valorant as opposed to allowing themselves to be subject to the changes in meta?
I think it's just personalities. I think Hiko's the best example, right? Because he's great when the clutch play works when he plays super late in the round, but we haven't seen him change that up at all, especially when it doesn't work. It feels like we either try it, if it works, great. Like Hiko looks like a god. If it doesn't work, he's the first name you pick out and go, that was a big underperformance from him. And like you can't, if he continues with that, you kind of look at him and go, he might be a problem player for 100 Thieves because he's not going, I should not do this anymore. It's the same play style that we've seen since First Strike, and there's no adaptability there. I'm not necessarily zoning him out as a specific issue, but there's inklings of that with all of the players. I think one of them that brings the stuff to the table nicely is Asuna, who, without Dicey in that lineup anymore, it's kind of all for him to do. And Ethan's still new to the game. Maybe he could be that experimental guy that's going to go, I'm going to play some Viper. I'm going to play some Euro. I'm going to be the guy that puts us out there and try some new stuff. But I don't see Steel doing it really. And I certainly don't see Hiko. What if Sova gets nerfed? What does Hiko do? Like, does he go back to Breach or Sky?
Well,
Have we seen him on those ages in a while? It's just
every time
yeah.
this team plays Split, I mean, 100 Thieves just don't want to fucking play it. And arguably it's because of it not being a great server map, or at least that's part of it. I mean, Ethan just got onto the team. Are they relying on? I mean, to be fair, based on some of his assignments and seeing him play the Sage, he might be the person that is expected to be super adaptable.
He needs to be a duelist.
These CS guys never really had to do this, though. You know what I mean? Like, this was never really. This wasn't a part of succeeding at Counter Strike, I suppose. Adjusting to, there were metas in fairness, but I think it was only in terms of the guns you would use and how your playstyle would change around, like using the Tech 9 or when the revolver was good or the Krieg or whatever. But maybe it's got something to do with that. But either way, I wonder who would be the one to step up on that team, because you would think that based on their role, like, okay, here you go. Do we see much Sky from 100 Thieves?
No, and they need Sky, man. And not only that, but even the simplistic shit. Like, there was a lot of talk in the beginning about the fact that, they wanted to get away from the op play, the jet, this and that. What happens whenever 100 Thieves has an op in their hand? When Steel is opping, those rounds, like, 100 Thieves are fucking untouchable. And then you think about the fucking possibilities and the fact that you're bringing up Sky, yo, information. One of the biggest complaints about 100 Thieves is that they just didn't have the information at their disposal like other teams. But then now Reykjavik is real. You're looking at all these Korean teams, new turning them, where in Korea, it is very common that you see Sova and Sky in the same lineup, not just because Sky has flashes for you and she can heal people. It's because she gets information. You got to think bigger like that. And 100 Thieves, the moment that they think like that, they're going to be, a fucking issue, Ryan.
Yeah,
that excites me. It excites me. I'm sorry.
I just remember that quote around First Strike where Heretics won it in Europe, and you have Hiko kind of going, I don't get it. I don't get the Sage pick. It just Europe doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't think there needs to like that age like fucking.
He said that they were behind.
Yeah, and I think it's just that. That's what it kind of feels from. Like, I really like 100 Thieves and I like all of the players, but you need to have an innovator in that lineup. When you look at Fnatic, it's Boaster and Mini just drilling in ideas. If a new agent comes in, they practice with it to see what it's worth. I feel like 100 Thieves, when somebody like Astra comes out, they play it and go, nah, let's just go back to Omen. We don't need this. It's not going to be that good. And I feel like they're just constantly playing catch up with the meta.
Christ. If you don't want to play it, then learn how to play against it.
They're ahead in individual skill in NA, but behind when it comes to comp meta. It's the weirdest thing.
I think
because
it's just
they
like when they
want to
get
be
up,
strategic. Sorry.
Is no, I was just gonna say, like, it's when they catch up to the meta, they look like the best team on it. But it takes a while for them in comparison to somebody like Version1 or Sentinels, that are a little bit more rapid when it comes to getting their heads around stuff. I just think they're a little bit slower in that approach.
Veli, I mean, let's talk about Cloud9 Blue, because obviously this team is starting to pan out, I think, a little bit more. And I think a lot of our expectations are really sort of being exceeded. Floppy looks like a really great addition to this team. Looks really quite good, but I want to get your take on it because I know you've been watching. You've been watching, fam.
I've been watching a little bit, fam. You know what I'm saying? You know what it is? I love Cloud9 Blue's approach to the game. Now, we all criticized him when Tins was on the team because Tins is he's a god when it comes to being an individual player. But from what we see now, Cloud9 Blue, that's not their approach. And I knew that this team was different from the very start, because whenever you look at the agent select screen, and it all starts with Zeta and this unselfish play with Breach, he opens things up for his team. They're not going to fly at you. They spread out around the map. They read what you're doing, and then they try to counter-strat it. But Zeta, he doesn't just support, though. He aces, he clutches, he gets big plays, and they're all on his resume. Now, the pacing with Cloud9 Blue, it's just stupid because they always leave space between you and them. And they want you to make the bad play. And if you want to make that bad play, the scariest shit about it is not going to be Zeta. You're going to have Leaf. You're going to have all those other players that are willing to take that 50-50 with the utmost confidence. And the thing is, that confidence isn't going to come from ego. That confidence comes from like a European Korean style of gameplay where it's like, we're not going to put ourselves in a bad situation. We're gonna have tools. We're gonna apply them. But if you want to go on this site, if you want to get this fight, you're gonna have to come and play by our rules. If you want to rush in and be aggressive, good luck. I mean, Version1 had a lot of good luck doing that because they won that series. But still, though, Cloud9 Blue in the direction that they're going, I'm going to be completely honest. I thought they were going to win that series before that Version1 game happened because of just from what we saw. They look like, especially with their lineups, they look like they were doing what we're saying 100 Thieves should be doing. And that's the reason why it worked, in my opinion. It's just, they're smart, man. And those players are not the loudest. You don't look at them and say, oh, these, LeBron stature, whatever. These are players that are humble. They're not the biggest of superstars, but they get the job done. I think that Cloud9 Blue in the future, if they're not a top 4 team, I personally would be shocked.
How did we talked about things aging like milk, Ryan. You want to have a look at our predictions before the challenges playoffs? You want to see? Do you remember this? Belly, you're an impartial entity here, so I want you to rate our predictions now. I want you to, you can give us your thoughts and feedback on our predictions. None of us thought C9 would do anything. Definitely none of us thought V1 would go anywhere.
Y'all thought XSET was going to do it? Why?
Yeah, because I
like XSET, but why?
Because they started to look a lot better and they just looked mad good at using the Astra. I'm like, these guys use Astra like we did. This looks so good, man. I'm like,
I know we did.
There was a lot of rep
also,
in the
I think
set.
I interviewed Psycho on that same episode, and I was feeling really like high on.
And Ryan, I know you ain't trying to chime in. So Ryan, when we look at Envy as well, my guy, Envy is I used the example earlier. It's the Envy effect, man. Dominate the hell out of seeding events, and then when the big thing happens, it's like, yo, Victor crashes, mumming on them. I'm expecting him to pop off, but it doesn't happen. It's like, damn, I love this team. They're not giving me what I need right now. Sentinels is a very smart pick. I would say the smartest person right here, 1,000,000%, Ryan.
Oh, it's the closest.
It's pretty safe. What do you mean? You would have? I guess you were closer than me, technically. Yeah.
100 Thieves. I get what Van Seal was trying to do. You said Sentinels and XSET. Sentinels, I get. XSET wasn't on my upper tier of teams when it came to this at all. If anything, I'm gonna be honest.
The bed, bro. Yeah.
You know who I would have? You know who I probably?
Yeah, I want to know.
As a hot take, I would have taken Sentinels for sure, and then NRG.
Ooh,
I would have taken NRG because I have a theory that Tex and Android are gonna be the fucking shit together. I think Tex and Android are going to be the duo that we've just been waiting for in NA that just goes crazy. Kind of like what we saw with Asuna and Dicey in the beginning, right? That's what I want to see from them.
That team is so stacked. That team is so stacked. Dap Som EU.
Oh, come on. Uber. It's a wet dream, man. But those would have been my picks, though. And I would have been way wrong as well, which is a good thing.
You made the chaotic. You predicted FaZe Clan to win that Challenges 3, I think it was, back in stage 1, and that was like at the time the most fucking papega take.
That was dumb luck. Hey, I could take all the credit in the world for that. I'd be like, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. I'm gonna be real. I saw something. Did I believe in it with my whole heart? Nah. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Heart of the Cards was not there, man. Not at all. I had my day, Uber. That was it.
Absolutely. Yeah, big shout out to Grumtot in the stream who doesn't realize he's walked into a show and not Valorant, bro. Yeah, big shout out to those that go to the Valorant section and look for the streams with like 40 viewers and click on those. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you, mate? Oh shit. Anyway, we've got better things to do than to have some random fuck come in here and have no idea what kind of chat he's walked into.
That's not very
guys,
nice
to
say to Vansili. Man, he's not even here anymore.
Listen, I don't have time. I don't have time for Vansili if he's not on the show. You know what I mean? He's out there in his fucking car park, bro. Like surely you could watch anime on your phone. You know what I mean? There's so many other things that you could do if you had the choice. Anyway, obviously, by the time we come back next week, we'll be very close to Masters. But we still won't be there. Up.
Yeah, like, so next week nothing happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna try and obviously find out. We'll keep an eye on events as they develop next week, because this show, for those that maybe are just finding out, Valoranting is a show where we talk about Valorant. We don't actually play it. We talk about the happenings around the Valorant scene. We talk about tournament results. We talk about roster changes. We talk about patches and changes to the game. It's basically a bunch of guys talking about Valorant. That is exactly what the show is, just to set expectations for everybody. That's what we do here.
If I had to play the game instead of talk about it, I'd be homeless at this point, to be fair. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm a caster for a reason. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be all for today. We'll be back next week again, catching you up with all the news that has happened over the last week, and of course, continuing to build some of that excitement going into Reykjavik. Thanks, Verily, for coming back. Ryan, great to have you back here again. Everybody in the chat, even those that don't understand the purpose of a show, it's been a pleasure to have you along, and we'll see you next Tuesday.